Good evening. Residents living alongside the route of the proposed high-speed 2 rail line have today been offered an increased compensation package. Homes closest to the proposed line will be bought by the government for their full, unblighted market value, and owners will be offered an extra cash payment to help with moving costs. Our transport correspondent Peter Plisner is in North Warwickshire now. Quite a surprise move this, Peter.
Well, indeed it is, Nick. In the past, the government has done its best to buy as little property as possible on things like road schemes, but now the floodgates are open for hundreds of properties to be bought. Tonight we're in Gilson in North Warwickshire, a village severely affected by HS2. The line would run just beyond that gate behind me. In the past, they've not been offered much compensation here, but tonight it appears, as a result of today's announcement, the majority of homes here will now be bought. For some living along the route of HS2, their homes have been blighted now for 4 years. Many have been stuck in a state of limbo, unable to sell their houses for what they're worth. But what made matters worse, an initial government compensation scheme was difficult to access. Now things are changing with the launch today of an express purchase scheme for those closest to the line in the so-called safeguarding zone. But the government appears to have gone even further. 2 other measures, including a voluntary purchase scheme and a need to sell scheme, both designed to help homeowners outside the zone. There'll also be cash payments of up to £30,000 for some others whose homes are blighted the most by HS2. MPs whose constituencies have been badly affected by HS2 have given today's news a cautious welcome.
I'm very disappointed there's no property bond. A lot of us are pushing very hard for that. I'm very interested in the idea of this residents' champion. That could be a very good idea as long as it's genuinely independent. If it's just an employee at HS2 Limited, frankly, that's not going to be good enough. And finally, the cash compensation that they're offering to people further away, I welcome the principle. I don't think they've got their sums anywhere near right.
After years of misery for some, the HS2 nightmare could finally be over. But for others, the waiting continues. Some of the measures announced today will only begin after another major consultation. Well, here the line runs just beyond that tree in the background there, and it's quite close to John Whitehead's house. John, previously you've been refused the offer of buying by the government, but now it appears the government will buy your property. You must be pleased.
Oh, it's such a relief, such a relief. I mean, it's been 4 years, and it's been painful waiting with the uncertainty, but it is such a relief. We're so pleased.
Are you surprised, bearing in mind that the government has steadfastly said that your property is not needed for HS2, so therefore we're not buying it?
Well, I always thought that in the long run they would agree to buy the properties, because in our village we're surrounded by the railway on all sides, and it's fairly obvious really from the start.
Also with me is Roger Bedson, a chartered surveyor who's dealt with a lot of the claims in this village. You must be pleased. What do you make of the measures that have been announced today?
Well, these measures certainly introduce a lot of clarity for people. Previously, HS2 were working under the fairly draconian rules of the blight scheme, and if they could claim that they didn't need the property, genuinely didn't need it to facilitate the construction of the railway line, they didn't have to buy it. What they're saying in this document now is, if you are within the safeguarded zone, we will buy your property, and that's good news.
They often say the devil's in the detail. Do you think this is as generous as they'd have us believe?
I think it's a good scheme for a lot of people that are within the safeguarded zone. What they're also saying is, where properties straddle the safeguarded zone, if 25% of the property is within the safeguarded zone, they will still buy it. So it's a very good move, I think. Very
briefly, some of these measures have to go out to consultation again.
Some do have to go out to consultation again, yes. There is a further scheme proposed for further compensation. We'll wait and see what that brings later in the year.
Roger, John, many thanks, and we're being told that this will not push up the cost of HS2 because they'll be using the contingency included in the costs.
Peter, thank you.